And we're live. Vieri, stop playing with your microphone. Hello, everybody, and welcome to What Just Happened on Forza Italian Football TV. I'm your host, Dov, as always, and I'm joined by my two fellow cohorts on What Just Happened. It's Nicholas Carroll. Nicholas, how are you?
Yeah, I've been better, but good to be here.
I'm excited for this, and obviously we've got Vieri Capretta with his Ranieri tribute T-shirt on.
Exactly. That's exactly why I'm wearing my Leicester top. Although I'm very excited tonight because we saw some fantastic football in Serie. It'll be great to talk about.
We did, because Chievo beat Zemanlandia, like I said to everybody last week. I told you this would happen. Oh, Zemanlandia is back, but no. Walter Bielsa's back. That's what it's all about. But luckily for everybody, we're not going to talk about Chievo's wonderful win against Pescara. We're actually going to talk about the game that just happened. It was Inter against Roma. It was 3-1 to Roma at the Giuseppe Meazza Stadium. A double from big Radja Nainggolan, and then Mauro Icardi got what eventually was a consolation goal, but it looked like it could have set up something exciting in the last 10 minutes. But then Diego Perotti, cool as a cucumber, sticks the ball in the back of the net from the penalty spot to give the Giallorossi all 3 points. Right, so that's what happened in a nutshell. But I want to get into the nuts and bolts of it. I'm going to leave Nick stewing for a minute, Vieri, okay? I'll let him come in a sec, because he's obviously a bit upset. He's probably got a strong drink and not a lovely glass of Prosecco that he normally has. So, Vieri, what went wrong for Inter? Pioli put out a crazy team of like hundreds of thousands of midfielders. Was it the wrong approach? What happened with the starting 11 there from Stefano?
Well, I think on paper the approach was correct because he was playing against a better team. So it made sense to adapt a formation to try and stop Roma. And the idea was to put Roma's midfield in a box by having two extra midfielders that would then act as the first strikers or attacking power as well. It didn't go too well because Roma were just a better team, both tactically and technically, and they often made the right decision, which I think was what Inter lacked tonight. Very often, sometimes they should have put the ball in for a cross and they had a go at goal, or even in defense. They often made the wrong decision, and it just showed that some of the players in the Inter squad are just not good enough. They're just not for that top three level that Juve, Roma, and Napoli are at, but they're just below it. And I think it showed. Roma didn't destroy Inter. They won by 2 goals. They were the better side, but Inter put up a decent performance. I think the idea of having a lot of midfielders was on paper the correct one, but then again, they lost something up front. And having Eder coming in and then Gabigol in the end was trying to correct that, and it didn't quite work out.
Nick, do you think that is as simple as that, really? Just Inter aren't on the same level as Roma?
I think it's fair to say that the game in general showed that Roma are a better quality side at this point. I think if there was a game to show the difference between the top 3 and the rest, this would probably be it. I agree with Vieri to an extent. I don't mind the extra midfielders, the approach, as obviously that was always going to be key, the midfield battle, given the strength of Roma. But some of the selections I wasn't exactly happy with. I don't think it was necessarily the strongest Inter squad that Pioli could have put up. Brozovic, the main question mark. I'm not sure what he's doing in that starting squad. He was just not there. And I think, I don't know, given how we started and how Roma kind of took to that game, I think I would have possibly liked to have seen a switch to the 4-2-3-1, because there was nothing, there was no connection between that midfield 4 and then the front line, Icardi. It seemed like Jean Mario was just in no man's land, and Brozovic was just, doing his normal thing, which isn't much. So, I think Roma, it was a very deserved win. They were obviously the better side, but it's just a bit disappointing that, firstly, that I think Inter could have put up a better team, and secondly, some of the decisions, which I'm sure we'll get into.
We'll get onto the referee a bit later on. What about the midfield then? The midfield battle. Nick, I'm coming back to you because, like I mentioned at the start, big Radja Nainggolan scored 2 was immense the entire evening. And I know Vieri thinks he's possibly the best midfielder in Europe. So, I mean, talk about his performance from an Inter perspective, please.
Yeah, he's... I mean, what do you do? I mean, I was just kind of, for both the goals, you just kind of put your arms up and you just think, like, what? I mean, how do you even stop that? I mean, that's, yeah, he's on another level at the moment. It's quite incredible, and it's incredibly hard to defend against, obviously. But, you know, obviously he's a main part, but I think, and obviously he'll take the headlines, and rightly so, but I think Daniele De Rossi and Strootman in that midfield were absolutely incredible. They bossed it from the back. They basically gave Gagliardini and Kondogbia no chance on the ball, and I think that's kind of where it started for them, and Nainggolan was able to build off the back of that.
Vieri, are Nainggolan, De Rossi and Strootman the best midfield trio in the league?
Well, if you consider Juventus are playing with a duo at the moment, then possibly yes. I think they don't have that experience yet to really rival Juve's power in general. Because you might look at Nainggolan and say he's better than Khedira, but you look at what they've won in their careers, and they've got a similar age. Nainggolan isn't that young, although he's only been emerging fairly recently at an international level, at least. And then you see where Juve really does have that edge on Roma and on Napoli, is on the experience. So possibly not, but potentially. I mean, I think De Rossi definitely has that experience. Obviously, he's lacking everything else right now. I mean, he's a solid in his positioning, but he doesn't have that power anymore, the strength that Strootman does have. And obviously, Nainggolan is simply incredibly complete. I mean, even when you think he's making the wrong decision, like on that second goal against Inter, where he could have done anything, really, possibly the right decision would have been to pass the ball. But then he finds himself there, he shoots on goal, and he scores an absolute stunner again. So, well, I mean, it's a bit different saying he's the best midfielder in the world. What I would say is that I can't see anyone who's clearly better than him.
Well, that means he's the best then.
No, you could have 10 midfielders on the same level. It's not the exact same thing. But if I had to pick one box-to-box midfielder as complete as him, if I had the budget to buy one midfielder, I'd probably buy him.
What do you think has changed in terms of his game then? Because last season I remember that he was kind of trying to play a bit further forward, and it really wasn't working a lot for him. And there were games where Roma were trying to use Nainggolan as the kind of creative fulcrum of the team, and it didn't work. Why is it working so well this season? Because I think he's got 5 goals in his last 6 games, and he's just, like you say, he's been one of the best.
I think what the guy Roma were missing last season in order for this to happen is Kevin Strootman. Because right now, Roma essentially have that midfield duo that Nick was talking about, De Rossi and Strootman, or Paredes as first substitute, and Paredes is a very good player as well. And you have those two doing their job as midfielders. And then essentially you have Nainggolan, who on paper starts ahead of them on the pitch, in front, further forward, but he then does whatever he wants. And he does whatever he wants without the team balance losing anything, because he's got those 2 midfielders behind him anyway. So he can defend when he has to, go forward when he wants to. And I think that's the key, Kevin Strootman, really.
There we go. Right. Well, let's kind of move on to some Inter midfielders. Nick, you mentioned Brozovic and his non-existent performance. What about Candreva? Because Candreva started quite well with Inter. Obviously joining from the summer and the start of the season was doing quite well, but he was almost as absent this evening as Brozovic. What's going to happen to him?
Yeah, I don't know if it's... I'm not sure if it's just a confidence thing, but he's just looked off his game. I mean, he's not putting in any decent crosses. It takes 50-odd crosses for him to put a decent one in, and you know, it's often when he does put a decent one in, we get results. So yeah, it's not quite working for him at the moment in any kind of the formations. So I can't say it's positional or anything like that. I can't say it's service. He's definitely getting the service. He's getting the ball, but he's just not really delivering. It's a long way away from what he was doing in previ's life. So yeah, it's a question mark. I don't know.
You seem a bit disappointed, Nicholas. I'm a bit worried about you.
Yeah, well, you know, when a team puts in, I think I was looking at the passes. We'd put in 30-something crosses to Roma's 12 today, and I'm just trying to think. I was looking at that stat and thinking, how many of those crosses were actually half decent? And I couldn't think of a handful. So you know, they play the right game. You know, we get into those positions out wide. The Inter always do, but just so inefficient in putting decent crosses in. And Candreva, that should be second nature for him. So it's frustrating that that he can't deliver.
Right. What about the referee then? There's two incidents in my mind that are kind of worth discussion. The first one was Nainggolan's second goal, where it looked like, if I can't remember who the player was he fouled, but it looked like he fouled a player in his own half before he ran the entire length of the half the length of the pitch, and to score. Vieri, I'll come at you on this one. Should there have been a foul in the build up to that one?
I think can be given. It can be given, obviously, and I think that's the main problem, because if nothing happened afterwards, you know, it's just a foul or maybe not a foul in midfield, but then Nainggolan goes on and scores like an absolute monster, and then everything becomes interesting on if that's a foul or not a foul. I think the way the referee refed the whole game, it's not foul, because he let a lot of these contacts like in the middle where you're not really sure if it's a foul or not. He let them go really often. So in that way, I understand where he's coming from. But in a lot of other situations, you'd give that foul. You'd give that foul, and then Roma don't have that counter. It's a very difficult one.
Nick, have you got a differing opinion? Were you just dead on, should have been a foul, the referee's going, what is he doing? Or can you see why it wasn't given?
In any game, in any Serie A game, that's a foul. That is a foul at any time, any minute of the match. Like, it was a blatant push in the back. Gagliardini had no chance at the ball, and then Inter's left short at the back, obviously. Now, you know, probably shouldn't have been left that short, granted. And, you know, well, when Nainggolan does that, I mean, what can you do? But I don't know. It just seemed blatantly obvious to me. And it was really annoying to be at that point, because Inter came out arguably the better side in the first 5 to 10 minutes. They looked like they were starting to, you know, play themselves into the match. And, you know, that I think that's the moment that kind of turned it. I mean, it was, you know, it's just, as Vieri said, it's just a kind of small thing. And maybe sometimes it doesn't go. I would say very, very rarely, but it changed the game. You know, 2-0 makes it a completely different game and all but ends it for Inter. So I just, yeah, I don't know. It ruined the game for me.
Well,
that one call.
Really? What about the penalty one? For the penalty, was that a penalty, Nick? Because you have your doubts on that one as well. Mr. Paolo Tagliavento's your favourite guy at the moment, I see.
Yeah, he's not my favorite referee. You know, I don't want to go on too much about, you know, the refs cost us the game or anything like that, because, you know, it needs to be said that Roma deserved to win. There's no doubt about that. It's just I feel like Inter weren't possibly given the chance to fight for the win when we might have had that opportunity, even though we weren't, you know, in the match so much. You know, I guess, look, by the books, yeah, probably a penalty, but it's one of those ones where, see, I would say this for what Vieri said about the foul. I would say, well, you'd see that not given so many times, and I don't know. I don't want to play poor me, but Inter really struggles to get penalties.
Well,
so that's all I'll say. I don't know what else. And can I just say, Roma, that's their 10th penalty, I think, of the season. Unbelievable.
But that was, I think, the only real thing the referee got wrong, hugely without a doubt, was a a penalty for Inter, I think, when Kondogbia kind of didn't score that goal, and then the ball stayed there on the line in Roma's area. I think that's the only one, because the penalty for Roma was like the most clear foul ever. He did just simply, Medel just didn't reach the ball, and then he tackled. There's the Six Nations on. He just got the wrong sport, and there you go. Inter had the chance to maybe draw that game, and it ends with a stone cold Perotti scoring a fantastic penalty as well.
Well, the commentary I was listening to said that like they kind of disagreed with kind of the two key moments of the game. They actually said the key moment at the end there was where Jason Murillo savagely elbowed Edin Dzeko in the face, and that was the key point, because it kind of broke everything up a little bit. When Inter probably looked like they would have got a second after Icardi got the first, but then that kind of broke everything up, and obviously then allowed Roma to get the third, which put the game to bed. Right, Vieri, tell me about that penalty. It was lovely.
Perotti's penalty. I thought it was. It's just incredible how he never looks at the ball at all. And if you look at it, if you look at a replay, you see Andanovic move slightly to his right, just about, like it's half a step, and that's enough for Perotti to know he'll never reach that ball, because then Andanovic throws himself on the right side, and Perotti doesn't even shoot it that much into the corner, just about enough to make it unreachable. And I think he's one of the few that does it that well nowadays. I've seen videos in the past of Maradona used to take penalties in a similar way, without essentially never ever looking at the ball and always looking at the goalkeeper, which is absolutely key. And how easy he makes it look. And when you think about someone like Edin Dzeko, who's obviously having a fantastic season, and he misses penalties just as easily as Perotti scores them. And it's important, because you get that chance. It's a foul, it isn't a foul, it's being given to you, you have a penalty, you score it, the game goes to bed. You don't score it, you risk a different result. So from a technical point of view, Perotti's penalty was almost as good as Nainggolan's goal.
Almost as good. Right, then let's look at the bigger picture then quickly, because that win keeps Roma 7 points behind Juve. I can't imagine either of you are going to think we're going to have some amazing Roma Scudetto comeback, no?
Well, they still have to play Juve again.
4 points if they win that.
But that's a decisive game.
So yes, well, obviously, if Juve win that, then it's like we could just give them the trophy here straight there. But Nick, Vieri's a bit optimistic actually. They're saying that they've still to play each other. Who knows? I mean, are you as slightly optimistic as him, or as pessimistic as me?
Yeah, as pessimistic. As much as Roma surprised me and probably a lot of people, I think they've still got that kind of ability to bottle a game in them, which Juve perhaps doesn't in Serie A at least. So, it's fair to say they're only 7 points behind, but you need Juve to slip up to actually catch those points, and I can't see them slipping up more than Roma.
There we go. And looking at Inter then, is it just Europa League for them? No chance in the Champions League. They're 6 points behind Napoli. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I've never really realistically thought Champions League was an option for us, just because as today's game showed, that Napoli and Roma are a different quality, I think, and are deservedly in that top three. So, but looking ahead, it's a bit odd seeing Atalanta 3 points ahead in fourth place, sitting pretty.
We'll talk about that for a second then, because that was probably the big thing that happened in Serie A over the weekend, was Atalanta going to Napoli and coming away with a 2-0 win. Calderà getting two goals, and the second one when they were down to 10 men as well, which makes it even more amazing what happened there. Vieri, can I just get your thoughts on Atalanta quickly? I don't want to dwell too long because this is what happened into Roma, but
The Italian Leicester City.
Why are they so good? What's happened? Why are Atalanta clear in 4th place, 3 points behind Napoli are in the Champions League spots?
It's just they make things look very easy, and I think they're just physically very strong, given probably by a good start of the campaign, and then they're all very young, so they just run more than the opponents very often, and technically they're much better than what people thought. And obviously Gasperini's found a way to make them all work together. Having said that, even Atalanta, it's very difficult to win at the San Paolo against Napoli anyway. So I think in that game, there's probably a bit of Napoli not doing their job fully, as much as Atalanta obviously doing extremely well. But the reason being, they're just a group of young guys who play football very well, with a couple of special players like Gomez, Kessie, Caldara himself, who really lift the whole group. But essentially they're a team. And, I don't think Atalanta has a better squad overall than teams like Torino, Fiorentina, AC Milan, even Inter, but they don't play as well together. And, you play football in 11.
Nick, do you think there's or do you think there's something going wrong at Napoli? Because it seems like ever since that defeat to Real Madrid, things aren't really going the way they want them to go. It looks a bit disjointed.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say anything's going too wrong. I mean, as Vieri said, I think watching yesterday's game, Napoli were awful. I mean, they were nowhere near what they were producing in midfield, in attack. They just looked well off their game. So, not to take anything away from Atalanta, to go there the way they did and play the way they did and take it to Napoli was, really commendable. But Napoli just were not good. So maybe an off game, but it's the one thing that's concerning with them is, okay, an off game, but you look ahead at their schedule, they've got Juventus, Roma, Real Madrid. So it's not getting any easier.
Very true, very true. Right, guys, that's pretty much it for this What Just Happened. Very, very quickish What Just Happened. Remember, obviously, I assume you're watching this on YouTube, if you are watching this. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It'll be somewhere down there, I think. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at Serie FFC. And if you want to follow us on Facebook, just type in Forza Italian Football on Facebook, and then get over to the website forzaitalianfootball.com, and you have lots of other fancy, amazing things on there as well. So thanks, Nick. Thank you, Vieri. It's been a pleasure as always. And until the next What Just Happened, there's nothing left for me to say other than arrivederci.